Here with us today, and welcome to Digital Tools for Distance Learning. Before we get started, we want to know where everybody is coming from. And I know in the last couple of sessions, we've had a survey or a poll for you to do, but today we would like to ask you to please go to the chat and type in your full name, first and last name, as well as the school district that you are joining us from. And I will give everyone a minute or two to get that done. So go to the chat, type in your name, as well as the school district you are coming from, so that we can gather a little more information about who is here with us today. Thank you. I see lots of comments coming in. And again, just in case you missed it, or if you're just coming in, please go to the chat and type in your first and last name, as well as the school district that you work at. I'll give you about one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And just to answer a couple of questions here, yes, all of your microphones and cameras are all muted. I should be the only one that you hear right now. I can't hear anybody else, so I think we're good to go. I also can't see anybody else. So welcome to Digital Tools for Distance Learning. This is our fourth webinar out of 5, so there will be another one next week that we will give you some more information on. The first 2 webinars we did kind of covered just distance learning in general and what's important. And the webinar last week, I talked a little bit more about digital tools that we can use for distance learning in our digital classrooms. And that's what today is going to look like as well. I have 2 more digital tools to show you today, and we'll talk about how to use them. I'll show you how to use them, and we'll talk a little bit about how they can be used in our distance classroom. So today will look a lot like last week did if you joined us last week. So speaking of last week and these past couple of weeks, a couple of things about those. I have emailed out certificates to everybody who attended the last couple of sessions. They're all out now. And I sent them to the email that you used to register for that webinar. So check that email and you should see your certificate there. I just copy and pasted all of the emails right in. Also, a lot of people are asking about the recordings. We are recording these sessions and we keep saying they'll be posted. There's been a little bit of a delay. And I believe I saw Elmer say that those recordings for all of those webinars we've done already are going to be posted by tomorrow, hopefully, at whro.org/webinar. So if you had missed some of the prior webinars and you wanted to watch them, those will be posted very soon. Keep checking back at that site and they will be there. All right. So let me go to my next slide. Hopefully you are all seeing my screen right now. My name is Janie Everett. I'm the Educational Technology Manager at WHRO. So that means that I work with teachers all around the eastern coast of Virginia, and I show teachers how to use technology in their classroom and with their curriculums. And that is more important now than it ever has been, given that we have truly digital classrooms due to COVID and all the effects that are happening from it. Here is my email, janie.everett@whro.org, and also my Twitter handle at ITS Mrs. Everett. Feel free to contact me at any time with any questions you have or any requests you have. If you have questions about today's webinar or any of the webinars I've done so far, you can contact me. Or if you have questions about anything technology related for the classroom, I can help you out with any question that you have, or I can try to help you out. Also joining me today, who you won't be hearing too much from, is Elmer Seward. He's one of my coworkers at WHRO, and he's going to be hanging out in the chat today and trying to answer as many questions of yours as he can while I'm presenting. And this is going to look similar to last week. So if you joined us last week, I'm going to show you a digital tool, and then I'm going to stop for a couple of minutes so that Elmer can ask me some of the questions that he sees building up in the chat. And then once we think we have all of those questions answered, then we're going to move on to the second digital tool. And then again, at the end of that one, we'll stop for any questions that there may be. So I talked about this a little bit last week as well, so I'll be quick in case you were listening last week. But when I was trying to decide which digital tools, oh, sorry, it never fails that my dog shakes right next to my computer during a webinar. I apologize. So when I was trying to decide which digital tools to talk about during these webinars, here are some of the things that I thought of when trying to find the perfect ones. And these bullets are what I feel are some of the most important components that educators need to think about when teaching digitally. And these are important in the regular classroom too. And we have to make sure that we can't let them fall to the wayside during a time like this when we are teaching online. We, of course, have to make sure we're communicating with students as well as their parents. If we're not talking with our students, they're not learning anything. And of course, we are not there face-to-face right now to, talk with them and see their reactions. So we need to make sure that we are finding more digital ways to keep in contact with them to make sure that they're learning and that they're there to talk also with us. It's not just one way. Communication is a conversation both ways. We, of course, have to find ways to provide that direct instruction. It is not quite as simple as standing in front of your classroom and teaching and talking to them. But once you have the right digital tools, it really can be that simple, which I'm hoping to show you. We also need to make sure that not only are we giving our students direct instruction, but we're providing them digital learning materials for them to work on in their own time. Just like in a school building, teaching and learning is not all, it's not always the teacher standing in front of the students talking. It is also students exploring and discovering on their own and working on their own assignments. So that needs to come into play in our digital classroom as well. We still have to assess our students so that we know what grades to give them or just where they're at, if they need extra help or if we think they've got it and we need to move on to the next topic or give them an extension. And then last but definitely not least, we need to just be available for our students as well. Usually in the school building, they're excited to see us and tell us about their weekend, and they have questions about the homework assignment, and they want to explain how they completed the homework. And just because we're not in the classroom in front of them doesn't mean we can't still do those things. So we have to make sure that we're available not just for what we want to say to students, but also for what they have to give to us as well. So here I have listed a whole bunch of icons of different learning management systems. You will hear us refer to them as LMS quite frequently too. So if I say LMS, I mean learning management system. And those are tools like Blackboard and Moodle, Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, sort of, Desire to Learn. These are all learning management systems. And the reason I bring these up is because you're all coming from all of these different school districts, and I want you to understand that I realize you're all kind of at a different place with LMS or learning management system. I know some of you may not use a learning management system at all. So the digital tools I show you today, you would use directly with your students. I know some of you are using things like Google Classroom, which is kind of half and half. It's not a complete LMS, but it's kind of on the way there. And I know some of you are using full-blown LMSs all day, every day, like Canvas or Schoology. And I want you to know that these tools I'm showing you can be used with any of these LMSs or just completely on their own too. So you're not limited. And for those of you who don't know, a learning management system is basically one place where teachers kind of put all of their stuff for students. Some school districts choose to use them as a whole. Some teachers individually choose to use them. It's where you can put assignments and tests and articles and links and anything you want to give your students to work on. It's kind of like one central hub where you can put all that stuff. So all of these sites that I show you and apps all have like links or ways of embedding into an LMS if that's something that you're using. And if not, you can just go use them on your own without any of these. So the first tool that I will show you today is Nearpod. It is an app. It's also a website. And basically Nearpod is a site that lets you make slideshows for your students to present information to them, but it is so much more than your typical Google slide or your typical PowerPoint. And then after Nearpod, and after you ask me some questions, then we will move on to the second digital tool I have to show you for the day, which is Flipgrid. Again, Flipgrid is also an app or a website, flipgrid.com. It lets learners share their ideas, stories, and work. And basically what this is a fun and also protected site where students can go post short video recordings of themselves answering a prompt or something or a question that you have given them. So these are the two tools that we're going to go over in depth today. And I am going to escape out of my slideshow. Hopefully, there we go, so that I can go into my browser and start showing you Nearpod. All right. So like I mentioned before, Nearpod, basically in a nutshell, lets you make slideshows for your students. And I know there are like a million different softwares and sites and apps out there that let you make slides for your students, but Nearpod is absolutely one of my favorites. I was an elementary school teacher for quite a few years, and then after that, I was an instructional technology specialist. I have had the free and the paid versions of Nearpod at different times in my career, and I love them both. I found them incredibly valuable. I used this all the time as a teacher with my students. I used it as a technology specialist with my teachers and with their students, and everybody I use this with really found a great amount of value in using Nearpod. Not only does it let you create these slideshows that your students will view, but it also lets your students interact and kind of give some information back to you. So it lets you provide that direct instruction, but it also lets you assess and see where your students are at and see also what's interesting to them and all that. So in Nearpod, first, I'm going to show you how to make one of these slideshows, as well as all of the really cool tools that you can incorporate in them. And then there will be some other features that I will show you as well. So, when you create a slideshow, here are some ones that I have made from the past. You give your students a code. It's typically like a 6-digit code, I would say, of letters and numbers. And all your students have to do to see your slideshow is go to nearpod.com, and right here on their main page, they just enter that 6-digit code you gave them, and it takes them right to your slideshow. So students don't need to create accounts. They don't need to log in any way, shape, or form. When they enter your code, it will ask them for their name so that when you're looking at the data, you know who was viewing what and who was answering what. But it's very, very simple. Okay, back to the teacher side. So I want to show you how to create a lesson in Nearpod. It logged me out. All right, here we go. So I have created a new lesson or a new slideshow, and I'll just call this one slideshow sample. Of course, you can title it whatever you want to. And now we can add some slides. You also see a copy option here. So if you, made a slideshow in the past and you wanted to copy and paste some of the slides over from that one into this new one so that you don't have to recreate them, you can. But I'm going to show you how to create new ones. All right, so there are a lot of options here, and we're going to go through some of them, not all of them. I'm definitely going to show you my favorite ones that I like. So you have two different tabs at the top. It's split between content and activities. And here's kind of how I keep these two apart in my mind. Content, these are all of the items you can put in a slideshow, basically for your students to view. Anything you put in from the content side will be something that students look at or read or watch or, whatever. Activities, these are the types of things you put in a slideshow that your students are going to need to interact with that will also give data back to you as the teacher. So we're going to go through a couple of each of them so that you can kind of see what I mean instead of just listening to me explain it. So, just like your Google slide or, PowerPoint or whatever, you can add a slide that has a video on it. And just like in Google, you can search YouTube directly here and select the video from here. There's no need to open another tab, search for a YouTube video, and then copy and paste the link or try to embed. You can just search for it right here and add it onto your slide. So type in con. I guess I need the word academy afterwards. Okay, so maybe I want this video. So now I have a slideshow with a slide that has that video that I selected right in it for my students. And you can always click on the slide to see what it will look like for your students. And of course, they would click play and watch the video. All right, let's add another slide and see what else we have. This second one right here, this is just going to be your typical slide where you would add things. Like you can add text or pictures or anything. It's kind of just like a blank slide where you can add whatever you want to it. Just like when you're in PowerPoint or something like that. My dogs are gonna bark, I'm sorry. Let me relocate. Okay. So that one's pretty basic, pretty self-explanatory. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. Web content is a really cool one. So if there's website that you want your students to view, you can put that URL right here. So maybe if I want to share this slideshow, copy link, let me go back to Nearpod. So now when students open up this slide will just be a full screen of the website that I just put in there for them. And they can scroll up and down, excuse me. They can click on the links in the website. They can go wherever they want to in the site, but it's all in that slide. Again, they don't have to open up another tab and go to, have 500 tabs open on their screen. Okay, let's go ahead and add another one. All right, I really like Nearpod 3D. So there are a lot of really cool things in Nearpod 3D that definitely correlate with curriculum. So for example, I was a 5th grade teacher at one point, and in 5th grade at my school, that is when we did plant animal cells. So we have the animal cell model here, and we have the plant cell model here. And as you can see, there are just all sorts of other ones too, and different topics over here to choose from. But I'll go ahead and do the plant cell, and I'll show you what that looks like. So right now, my slideshow has 3 slides in it. The first slide was the video. The second one is a website I wanted them to view. And the third one is this 3D model. And here's what that looks like. And the students can click on it and drag it around and look at it from all different directions. And I believe, yep, they can zoom too. I'm just using my two fingers in the pinching motion on my touchpad to zoom all over the place in this plant cell model. Very, very cool. Okay, let's add another slide. PHET simulations. You may have seen these before. PHET is wonderful, but they have all different simulations that students can interact with, and you won't get data from your students from these. Those are just those activity ones, but these are still really, really cool. So one that I used quite a bit, let's go to Science Elementary School. Oh, there's one for static electricity. That's definitely a 5th grade standard. Bending light is one. As I'm scrolling through, you should see all sorts of familiar topics that you teach in your classes. Here it is. This is my absolute favorite one. And my students love this one too. The states of matter. Let me show you what this one looks like. Really, really cool simulation where the students can see water molecules. So there are the water molecules and what happens to them when they add heat to the container that the water is in. And it takes a couple of seconds, but they'll start, like, the molecules start flying all over the place, of course, like they would when they're a gas. And also you can see what happens to those molecules when you add cooler temperature to the container. And of course, they'll start to all gather towards the bottom in one big chunk, and they won't move around quite so much. So this is a really good one because, there are all sorts of matter activities out there, but, it's not like we can actually show students the molecules and what they do. We need to, show them models of what the molecules do. And when you're in the classroom, there are all sorts of really cool ways to show students that. I know a lot of teachers, including myself, have, the students stand up and they themselves become the molecules as they move around the room. However, we can't really do that in our digital classroom. So this is a wonderful alternative And not even just an alternative. I used this right in the classroom with the students too, and they absolutely love these Nearpod slides that they can manipulate. It truly is a scientific investigation right on their device screen. These are wonderful. Okay. And this is the last one that I'm going to show you before we go over to activities. I also love these field trips. So you may or may not know, but Nearpod has a virtual reality component, and these can actually be used with virtual reality goggles if you have that situation going on. But if you don't, it's okay. You can still put them into a Nearpod slide and your students can still visit these places. And there's a search feature here. You can search all sorts of places, but right here is a third grade SOL, ancient Egypt. I know they have to know about pyramids for ancient Egypt. So again, we'll double click on that, and may not be quite as cool as with the goggles, but you know, they can still pan and turn all over the place and look everywhere in ancient Egypt. And there are, I mean, you could make a whole Nearpod slideshow just of these virtual reality field trips, and your students can travel to like, you know, 20 different places in just one lesson. It's really cool. And I'm sure you can imagine it's so much more powerful than, you know, just showing your students a picture of a pyramid or, you know, a PowerPoint full of text about pyramids. This is much more effective and much more engaging as well. So there are a couple more content activities in here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see your other options here. Audio, you can put PDFs in there, Twitter, Sway presentations, all sorts of cool things. I would suggest starting, if you're just starting with Nearpod, I would suggest maybe 3D, a simulation, or a field trip, because those are always like the really cool ones that kids love, and it really grabs their attention. And if they do that once, then they're typically like really excited to use Nearpod again. So when they see you give them a Nearpod code, they're like, oh yes, let's go, another virtual field trip or whatever. Okay, so let me show you just a couple of the activities that we can put in here. So like I said, these are all activities where the students are going to have to like answer a question, either an open-ended or a multiple choice. So they're going to have to click on something. And all of these activities are going to give you data from your students. So you might choose to give them an open-ended question on this slide. And you might say, I don't know, what did you think of the pyramids, spelled it wrong, in the last slide? Obviously, you'd probably come up with a much better question. So now, students have to answer this question on this slide before they can move on to the next slide to see whatever you have there. Okay, let's look at another one. Activities. You can give your students a quiz, and a quiz could have one question in it, or a quiz could have 5 questions in it. So if you have a 5-question quiz, all 5 of those questions will be on that slide. So they'll have to answer all 5 questions before they can move on. And these are multiple choice, the quizzes. Okay. Activities. Another one I really, really like is Draw It. And the kids, again, this is one that the kids absolutely love. And it may seem like they just have to draw something, but you can always find an instructional use for the drawing option. So I always use Draw It when I do Matter Nearpods with students. And of course, Matter is a topic that hits several grade levels. So you can use this in quite a few ways. So with fifth graders, I usually would say draw the molecules in ice. I would probably spend a little more time wording it a little bit better. And if you want to, you can put a video here or a picture or your voice reading the question or whatever you want to do. And then the students, before they move on to the next slide, they have to actually use their mouse, their pointer, to draw a picture of what the molecules would look like when they are solid in ice. This is a really cool one. And that's also an assessment tool too. Even though they're drawing, you can look at the pictures they draw, and if their molecules are all over the place, then you know they don't really have a great understanding of molecules in solid, liquid, and gas, because if it's a solid, all those molecules should be packed together. So it really truly is an assessment piece. Let's add another one. Activities. Collaborate is kind of like, it's just like a big collaboration board. It's almost like a Padlet, which I showed you last week, where it's this board where all the students can post on and see what everybody else is saying. And a poll, of course, and they have to pick one of the answers, and you're gathering information from them. And in the board,
Jenny, we've lost your audio. It's come and gone a lot.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Not sure what the issue was there. Let me reshare my screen. Where am I? This one. All right. Sorry about that brief break. Okay, so when you are finished with your slideshow, I feel like my 7 slides are all I need. I'm finished. I'm going to save and exit. And you can see it saving right here along with the other ones that I have done in the past. And while that, oh, there it is, perfect. So when you're ready to give your slideshow to students, you have 2 options. You can do a live lesson or a student-paced lesson. And I'm going to tell you the difference between the 2 of those. Live lessons are really great for when you're in the classroom and you're kind of doing a whole group lesson. If you choose live lesson, it will give you a code to give to your students. There it is. And when the students join your lesson, they cannot go through your slides without you. So as the teacher, you are like the complete moderator of the slideshow. You are on slide 1, your whole class is on slide 1. So when you walk around the classroom, every single screen is going to have slide 1 on it. And then from your teacher computer, when you click over to slide 2, it's automatically going to turn all of the students' slideshows over to slide 2 as well. So you are literally controlling what slide your students are on the whole time, which is a really great tool for, like I said, when you're in the actual classroom, maybe not the best tool for distance learning when everybody is at home kind of doing things on their own pace. So in that case, what you can do is choose student paced. Student paced is going to do the same thing. It's going to give you a code to give to your students. Oh, cool. It's going to give you a code to give to all of your students. There it is. And your just like it says for this one, your students can go through the slideshow at their own pace. So they're not stuck on the same slide as you, their teacher. They can go through it however they want to. They still see all of the cool things that you put in there, all the 3D things. They still have to answer the quiz questions or whatever it is that you put in there, but they just get to go through at their own speed, which is really cool. Also, if you did put a quiz in or a poll or something in your slides, you can find that information over here on the left-hand side at reports. So here are the lessons that I have implemented with students. And then it gives you all of these really great donuts, and you can see the students' names and how they performed on each one. You can go through by question, see what everybody answered, and it gives you some really good data to use for assessing your students. Okay. And the last thing I want to show you, I've already showed you how you can create your own slideshow, but I want to show you, they have a lot of really great teacher resources as well. Oop, not the one I wanted to show you. So it's actually at the top. You're going to click on Explore. I clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry about that. So at the top, it said Explore, and here we are. There are all sorts of slideshows already created by other educators and by Nearpod and by big companies like Common Sense, already created here for you. And they, of course, have a search tool over on this side. I will warn you, a lot of these you need to pay for, or you only have access to if you have the gold version of Nearpod. So here is one that you would need to pay for. However, there are definitely plenty of free slideshows in here as well. So before completely creating your own, I would definitely recommend searching to see if there's anything similar to what you're looking for. And if there is, you can use it exactly how it is, or you can make a copy of it and you can keep some of the slides, get rid of some of the slides, change some of them if you want to, which is a really great option as well. I'm going to head back here to my slideshow. And I wanted to share a couple of ways I thought of to use Nearpod in our digital classrooms. Of course, you can use it to provide students with direct instruction. You can give them all sorts of information on these slides. Every slide has an option of recording your voice, which is really, really cool because, you know, we're not face-to-face with our students, and sometimes they learn better from hearing us rather than reading something that we have posted. So it'd be really helpful to also, you know, record your voice talking about each slide and including that. Nearpod is a great place to import videos and materials from other locations. So you saw we were able to include websites and YouTube videos and simulations and all these really cool tools from elsewhere. You know, sometimes different softwares don't want to share. They don't want to be included with others. They just want to be on their own, but that's not Nearpod. Nearpod is all about sharing and bringing in other resources and being shared in other places too. You can assign students virtual scientific investigations. I showed you how to use those simulations, and they're really great for giving students science experiments while they're at home. You can assess students with those polls and quizzes and open-ended questions. You can use this to give students surveys about their interests, especially if we go back in the fall and you happen to be at a school who, maybe is still 100% digital. You can use the polls in here to very easily see what your students are into and, build a relationship with them when you're not face to face. And of course, like the last thing I showed you, you can browse and edit those pre-made slides to make your life hopefully a little bit easier. And if you have any questions about Nearpod, I'm going to let you ask me them now, but you can also contact me after this, or here is the support site also that Nearpod has. They have some really, really great webinars. I've attended a few. And in the past, I don't know if they still do this. In the past, I signed up for a Nearpod webinar and I attended it, and they gave me a free gold status on their website for an entire year. So I got all this stuff for free. I don't know if they still offer that now that they're a little more popular, but I am signed up for a webinar with them next week. So I will find out. So before we go on to the next tool, if you have any questions about Nearpod, you can go ahead and type in the chat now, and I'm going to try my best to answer those for you before we move on.
Okay, Janie, we have quite a few questions to go through.
Okay.
But first, I have one. I know that a number of teachers are going to wind up using a learning management system in the fall. At least I suspect very strongly that's true. I noticed that when you set up the Nearpod and you made the choice of whether it was going to be teacher-led in the classroom or whether it was going to be student-led, and you were setting up the code, that underneath it there was an embed link. So could you embed these in, let's say, a page in your learning management system? For example, a page where you have an HTML editor?
Yes. I have embedded these before in Schoology. I was at Virginia Beach School District last, and we were a Schoology school district, and I've done it both ways. I have just taken the link from these and posted the link in Schoology so the kids could click on it. I have just posted a discussion or an update and put the code in there and said go to Nearpod and click on that. And I've also used the embed tool in Schoology as well. So if your learning management system easily lets you embed things, that would be a great option.
Okay, great. Let's get to the questions that I see in the chat and in the Q&A. First of all, does Nearpod remove ads from YouTube? I usually use Safe Share TV to make sure the students don't see the ads.
Yes, at least when I was using it with students, which it's been at least 6 months or so now, I never ran into the YouTube ad issue through Nearpod. Hopefully it's still the same. Also, I'm not going to get into this now, but just an FYI, you could Google it or, ask a tech specialist or something. But there are ways that you can edit a YouTube video URL so that students only see a part of the video, a section of the video, which I know a lot of my teachers did. Which is a tad bit complicated, not the easiest thing in the world, which is why I'm not going to get into it right now, but there are ways around that.
Okay. I know you've talked about narration, but how can you add text to the 3D images that you put in Nearpod?
So I think what you have to do, I've played around with that exact thing before, and I'm pretty sure you cannot add text directly to this. Yeah, I don't think you can add text directly to this slide. I think what you have to do is create another slide right after this one or right before it and add the text to that, because I've thought of that and that would be super awesome, but I have not found a way to do that.
Okay. In the content area, what is Sway?
So Sway is a Microsoft presentation site. I used to use it at a different school when we were a Microsoft classroom school. It's almost like a mixture between like PowerPoint and a website. It basically, my best way of describing it is like it kind of like builds a website where you can add pictures and videos and text and information and stuff like that. It's really just like a presentation site, almost like a Google slide, but you're not really flipping through slides. It looks like more of a website, although website isn't exactly the correct term for it. It's just a presentation tool.
Okay. Is there a way to have students label a diagram on the activities section?
Let's see. So what you can do, I believe, is add a picture to draw it. And then I don't know if they can draw on top of the picture you add or if they can just see the picture you add. So that's actually a really good question. I would have to look into that more at another time, but this is where I would start. To the person who asked that question, go into Draw It, add a picture, and check it out. See if they can draw right on that picture or not. That would be a good place to start for that question.
Okay. And the next one, how do you record on the slides? Audio.
So let me get out of this one. So right here, when you create this slide, this is like the normal slide with text and, you can add pictures, videos, text, whatever you want to add. And down here at the bottom is an audio option. And you can record right here, or if you have a file already recorded, you can upload that.
Okay, can you also embed videos from sites like SafeTube, or ViewPure, or just YouTube?
I believe if it's anything else other than YouTube, I think you're going to have to upload it as a file. You can upload videos, but I think the only built-in video search option is YouTube.
Okay. Can you show the feature on how to add your slides to Google Classroom by email, etc.?
I don't have a Google Classroom set up, but I'm sure it's super self-explanatory. Let's see. All right, yeah, so if I click on Google Classroom, it's not really gonna take me anywhere because I don't have a Google Classroom set up. It's not gonna find anything, but everything I've ever done with Google before is super simple, and I've used Google Classroom in the past, and it's always simple. I'm sure if you click on Google Classroom, as long as you're logged in on your Chrome browser, I'm sure your Google Classroom is gonna pop right up to select.
Okay, another question. Does the free version have enough space, I guess, for 20 megabytes?
I'm not sure about that exact number, but I've mostly had the free version in my teaching career, and I've never run out of space. I've had the paid version too, but like right now I have a free version, and even for a while when I was a teacher, I never ran into an issue. So that I would have to look up, or maybe even contact Nearpod, or maybe their frequently asked questions. I'm not sure how much space exactly it is.
Yeah. And we've had a couple comments from people here that if you insert the insert the image, that students can then draw on the image in the draw area.
I was hoping. Good.
And also that the Google Classroom, it's pretty simple. You click on the Google Classroom button. The way that integration works with lots of things, and it asks you, first of all, if you have multiple classrooms, which classroom you want to put it in, and then it asks you what you want to do with it, what kind of activity you want to do with it. So it walks you through step by step, and it's only a few steps. Okay,
Yeah.
a few more questions. Do you have any recommendations for sites for differentiation of curriculum for special education students, elementary math and reading comprehension?
So I actually was an elementary school inclusion teacher for every single year that I taught. Actually, I always had the special ed classroom. So really any tool that I've showed you last week and this week are great for elementary special ed, because that's exactly what I taught. And these are all tools that I've used with my special ed students.
Okay. The next question's been answered already regarding voiceover. Jenny, is the Nearpod account you're showing them right now the paid account or a free account?
Nope, this is the free account.
Okay, and what's the difference?
So the paid account, I don't know how much it is individually. The only time I ever had a paid account was when my school bought it for everyone in the whole school, and it was really, really expensive. But basically that library I showed you was completely free. So like you had free access to everything that was in that library. That was the big difference I noticed.
Okay. Next question. Our students are blocked from using YouTube, but teachers can access it. If you use YouTube video in Nearpod, will the students be able to get to it?
That depends on your school district. Most likely not, but it really just depends what securities your district has in place.
Can the poll information and data be used in subsequent slides? Maybe a poll of the students' types of pets, then they would use the data to make a graph.
Yeah, so I didn't really get to show you this because I didn't run a class, but if you take a poll on your teacher screen, you can see the answers to the poll right away. And then as the teacher, it's up to you whether you want to do this or not, but you have the option of sharing the poll results with your class. So you could take the poll right there on, what type of pet they have, show it to them, and then the next slide could be a draw it slide, where they have to create a graph or something. So that's totally doable.
Okay. Would this site work with second grade?
Absolutely. I have used it with second grade.
And then would you show an example using drag and drop? And I think that's the last of the questions.
Yeah, let's go to this one. Add slide, activities. I probably the fill in the blank one, I'm assuming. I'm not sure I'll do the fill in the blank one. All right, so whichever word I want to take out, I click on it. You could click on as many as you want to. I'm hoping this is the drag and drop you're talking about. And then students, it's going to look a little different for them because I'm on the teacher side, but students will have this word bank and they have to drag the words over to where they belong. All right.
That's the end of the questions on Nearpod.
Okay. So Nearpod took a super long time, which is great because it's a phenomenal tool. And I feel like That's the one that needs a little more explanation anyway. So onward to Flipgrid. And I will be super, super fast with Flipgrid, but just like with Nearpod, they have a lot of really great webinars and tutorial videos. All you have to do is Google search how to use Flipgrid and you'll find all sorts of stuff, but it's also pretty self-explanatory. So here's going to be my little 5-minute quick explanation of Flipgrid. I always save Flipgrid for last because it's my absolute favorite. I feel like this company, I've been to so many education conferences and I say it every time, Flipgrid is listening to teachers. Flipgrid is on it. They're all over conferences. They're always asking what teachers want. They have new updates many, many times per year, and they're just a wonderful company. And it's a really fun site. Your kids are going to love using it. You're going to love using it. And you'll see it's a really phenomenal way to build classroom community. So what it is you kind of make these grids. I have 4 grids. I've created all 4 of these. And you basically post like a question or a prompt in there that you want your students to answer, and they answer it. But instead of typing to answer it or writing to answer it, they create a short video of themselves answering that question or that prompt. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to add a new grid and I'm going to give it a title. I'll call this one distance learning because that's what we're doing right now. This is a really great security feature for your students right here. This is asking you, how do you want your students to join? What you can do is you can go in ahead of time and like make a class if you want to, and it gives each student in your class an ID. So it's kind of like a password. They have to use their ID to get into your grid. Or if you wanted to, you could make it completely public, which most of the time we're not going to do because we don't want to put videos of our students out there for the public to see. The best option, which I always did, is school email. So if you choose school email and we click next, you type in your school's domain. So when I was at Virginia Beach, it was at vbstudents.com. And now to be able to get into my grid, my Flipgrid, students can only get in when they're logged in with this vbstudents.com email of theirs. So again, just makes it a little more secure. So like some stranger can't get into your grid and see videos of your students, because that's definitely not what we want. Here's the link that you would give your students, and that is changeable. You probably saw on the last page I was on, you can change that to whatever you want as long as it's available. So again, you can just copy and paste that link for your students. Here's the embed symbol. Share it right to Google Classroom. Looks like that's the Remind cloud. Yes, it is. Perfect. So those are all ways to share with your students quickly and easily. There's always this hello one here. Usually I just ignore it or delete it. It's going to tell your kids to introduce themselves, but that just kind of distracts them sometimes. So once you're in your grid, you want to create a new topic. And that's what this is. This is a topic. Now, also, if you want to edit the grid, like if you don't want that picture of a book up there, you can click on the pencil and you can edit. Here are all these different options where you can like add pictures and all that fun stuff. So we want to add a new topic. And say this is an icebreaker at the beginning of the year. What are you most excited about in, I reached my max because that's just the title. Let's just call it 5th grade. This one has a bigger max. What are you excited about in 5th grade? And then down here, we have all these really great features. You can give them a time cap, which is a really good idea because Some kids could talk for like 15 minutes about what they're excited about for 5th grade. So you might say, okay, you've got a 2-minute maximum on this because I am not listening to 3 hours worth of videos on what we're excited about. Video moderation is wonderful as well. If you click this on, which I suggest you do, then you have to view the videos from your students before they submit to the actual Flipgrid. So once they're on the grid, the Flipgrid, the whole class can see them. So you definitely want to do this moderation so that you see the videos first in case there's anything inappropriate. And then if you want to, you can record your own video or add one. You could put a picture in there, emojis, all this fun different stuff. We're going to go ahead and create topic. Your topic is ready. Again, you can share it with the link, the embed, all these different ways. You can even get a QR code for it, which is really cool. All right, and here it is. So I'm going to show you what it looks like from their side. Okay. So then they would have to click their school login. Here's what it's going to look like for the students. And then they see their question right here. What are you excited about? And they're going to click on the big green plus. And I think you're about to see my face. And I promise I'm almost done also. Allow. There I am. It says you have 2 minutes to record your video. This topic is moderated, so I know my teacher is going to see it before my classmates see it. You have all of these fun options. There are filters. You can add some text on there. You can add stickers and move them around. There's all this stuff. So whenever the students are ready to record, click on the record button. I'm most excited about math in 5th grade because math is my favorite subject and I want to learn new things. I'm most excited about math in 5th grade because math is my favorite subject and I want to learn new things. Makes you take a selfie. You can give it a title if you want to. Complete. So here it is. Your video is hidden until the teacher approves it. And once the teacher approves it, your selfie shows up here. Your whole class does this and you have like 20, 25 videos here. All the kids can see each other's videos and share with each other. And the last thing, I just want to show you my slide of ideas on how to use Flipgrid, and then I'm going to open it up for questions for you. So Flipgrid is really great for icebreakers. I've had students pretend that they were a famous American and they had to give a speech in Flipgrid. They can show different ways that they solve math problems because we all know that math problems don't just have one way of solving them. If you're a PE teacher, you could have your students create a new warm-up and share it on Flipgrid for the class. If you're an art teacher, have them share their artwork. If you're a music teacher, they can make a homemade instrument and play a song on Flipgrid with it. If you're a language arts teacher, have them give their opinion on that character from chapter 13. They can do science investigations from home and video themselves doing it and share on Flipgrid. And you could create a grid just called Questions for the Teacher, where they just share questions that they have for you. So I know Flipgrid was very, very fast, but don't hesitate to contact me after this if you have more questions. If you've got to go, that's fine. Thank you for coming. Otherwise, you can stick around and ask or listen to questions. I'm going to answer them the best I can. And just one more time, make sure you put your name and your school district in the chat if you haven't done that yet. If you're leaving, thank you so much. If not, stick around and let's see what questions we have.
Okay, Jania, I think because we've reached the end of the time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording first. Okay. So let me stop the recording. And then